Welcome to the space for transformational leaders to unleash their magic, see better client results, work lighter, and live source. Hello, and welcome to today's conversation in the Sourced Leader series. We are here with Ana Stephanie Munoz. Stephanie, welcome.
Hi, Darla. Thank you very much. I'm so happy and excited to be with all of you guys today.
I am so happy and excited. Stephanie is joining us from Guatemala.
That's
Yay.
right.
And I just want to start by sharing Stephanie does most of her work in Spanish, but she also works with clients in English. So I love talking with you, Stephanie, because you always articulate things so beautifully. As I know you're kind of like thinking of the way to articulate it. It's always so much better than I would. So I love that.
Thank you.
Yes. So let me tell you a little bit about who you're hearing from, and then I have a few questions for you. So Ana
Awesome.
Stephanie has more than 15 years of global corporate experience in the path of personal growth. She's helped more than 1,500 people and almost 20 companies and countries to radically change their lives, allowing them to live fully away from the negative effects of stress. She has also been part of business teams and has exercised the leadership function, acting only as a boss. I love that. Because her style was aggressive and not very empathic. So she knows what it takes to awaken the conscious leader within. In addition, she has the most effective tools for you to see tangible change in a short time. And I know we're going to talk about that today and about your book where you share your secrets. So I have two questions first before we dive into your work and your expertise. And the first is, how has operating as a sourced leader, or this concept of being sourced, impacted you in your work?
Well, Darla, it has impacted me in various positive ways, because at the beginning is, to be a source leader, you have a big responsibility of really living what you're teaching, have this congruency or this alignment that whatever you think, say, and do aligns with not only your purpose, but really something that's much deeper. Not only, because we're used to all these social and family things that we grew up with, and there's some misalignment. So to align that, it sounds easy, but in reality, it's really complicated, because you're used to most of your life to think one thing, but to say something different, because that's what people want to hear, or what's correct to say, or what is expected. So in that path, and becoming a source leader gave me not only the tools, but this alignment to live fully and more present to who I really am, without worrying what people might think. Because at the end, I'm convinced that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. But it's deeper than that. It's the fact that people that will resonate with me and my message will be the ones that will want to work with me, and will read my book, and will join my workshops, retreats, and everything. So the good thing about it is that I will align with those people that are kind of like the perfect match to me and my services.
I love that. And you're right. It can be really complicated when our family's used to us saying what they want to hear, or being a certain way. I know I've been working myself on this helpful tendency that I have, right? That I know creates connection, and sometimes people appreciate it. Sometimes my team is like, stop being so helpful because I get in the way. But yeah, it's like, it's a habit. So, I like to envision the world like a future where we're wearing these I'm sourced t-shirts, and it's a clue that says, hey, I'll use the words you said. If I see you kind of wearing this shirt,
Mhm.
I know I can trust that you're going to tell me what you really mean and not just say what you think I want to hear. So
Exactly.
if we had a world that was like that, what would change? What's your view?
I think, and it's something that I talk a little bit about in my book, not too much, but it has to do with self-awareness. And I believe here is it touches the fact that you you are 100% responsible or accountable for everything you do and say.
Hmm. Yeah, that can feel kind of intimidating
Yeah,
and
because
also exciting, but
exactly.
intimidating.
It's like, because, if you see it on both sides, for example, if you tell me what you're really thinking, that's your 100% accountability and responsibility of saying what you really think, not what I want to hear. But on the other hand, and sometimes we're afraid of saying that because you don't know how I'm going to take that. If I'm going to be offended, or if I'm going to be angry, or if I don't know, whatever, or get sad. But, and that when the other 100% of accountability and responsibility on my side comes to play, because whatever you tell me, it's coming from your reality, from the way you see things. And I I believe like 95 or maybe 99% of the times when people tell you something, it's not because they want to hurt you. They truly see it as it makes completely sense in my world. That doesn't mean it makes sense in mine. I mean, in their world, it makes sense. Maybe in mine, it doesn't. And the other way around, that I tell you something and it doesn't even make sense to you. But in my world, it does. So my responsibility is to understand that you're coming from a place of your reality. And if what you're saying bothers me, it's my problem, it's my responsibility, not yours. And okay, how I'm going to deal with that. And most of the times when people tell you something, as I'm saying, they're not trying to offend you or do you any harm. Sometimes they do, and when they do, but most of the times it's not like that. So as well, on my side, on both sides, like, okay, what's my responsibility? And when we start living from that place, it's much easier, and confusions or people being hypocrite or even not saying what you really think, it's not even an issue anymore.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I would love that.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about your journey when you speak about being a boss and, kind of not really seeing the other person's perspective. What was that like for you, and what sparked you to go down this path of looking at it differently?
Yeah, well, it all started, I had, not midlife crisis, but something like that when I turned 30.
You're early.
Mine was very early. I was like, I achieved everything by that time I dream of, but now if I see it in retrospective, it was everything to the outside. I had the job, the salary, the trips, the house, the car, the guy, everything, but I wasn't happy. And I didn't realize that until the company paid for something called coaching that I didn't know about. It was like 2007. So probably here in Guatemala, it was like, no, the only coaching you heard about was sports coaching, So it was really weird. And I realized like, oh my God, I have all these things. And I realized I'm not happy with my life. And I noticed that, I was a boss, not a leader. I need to be a hero, or I need to be a villain, or I'm a victim. And you play all those parts, but you come out from a place of fear or of guilt, not of a place of love, a place of fulfillment, a place of safety and security of who you are and what you are offering the world. So when I noticed, I decided to start changing my life. And that's when I started, working with coaching, then getting certified, then, leaving the company, getting a divorce. I had to change this, like everything in my life, to start dreaming, to start living actually my dream life. And that I have that right now. But it took me years, because at the beginning, I was doing it by myself. I read books, I did some trainings, but it's not the same as when you have support and you have a clear path of where you're going. That's what I love about coaching, that you have a clear path with your coach, and you start doing all the necessary changes to start building the life you want. And that's what I did. And that's what I teach now my clients. But I focus, because nowadays the world has changed so much. And it's after pandemic, it's been really, really crazy for some. And what I teach them first is to find the peace they need to live a different life, a more peaceful one, and a life that they can achieve much more doing less, and aligning themselves with what they really want. And that doesn't mean leaving your job or leaving your spouse. That doesn't mean that. It means first you find a path, and first you find your dream, and then you build it around it. I have some people that come to me like, I hate my boss. I'm so stressed out because he or she is like crazy. And I don't know if I want to leave the company. Probably that's my best option. And I'm like, no, wait, you're not going to leave the company, because the energy you have right now is the energy you're going to go anywhere else. It doesn't matter. So the next boss is going to be worse than this one. So let's not go there. Let's first, work on like bringing you peace in your life, and then we will see if that's what makes sense to you. And I just had that happening, recently with a client. We started working in March, and she was like this close to leaving the company after 12 years, because she couldn't stand her boss anymore. In June, she had this conversation with him, and started, changing completely. And last talk she had was in August. He was offering her a promotion, and he doesn't bother her anymore. And she's doing amazing, and he's so happy with her work.
Wow. I think my journey of really deciding I wanted to transform came because I did leave my job, and I went to a totally different job, totally different career. And I had the same complaints. So exactly what you're saying. And that's when I was like, oh, I think it might be me. Like, I'm the one who's having this problem. Nobody else.
It's not my boss.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about how to create peace. And I know in your book, you talk about this. So self-awareness helps people to be more peaceful. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. What I talk about self-awareness is, currently, most of the people, if you ask the population, if you ask them, are you self-aware? Most will say yes. And I love this book from Tasha Eurich. I don't know if you've read it. It's called Insight. And she's done a lot of research on self-awareness. And she says, really, only 13% of the world population have self-awareness. The rest of us think they do. And what does it mean? It means like, for example, you would say you're an extrovert or an introvert. What would you say, Darla?
I'm in the middle.
Okay. And do you know why?
Why I'm in the middle?
Or why are you? Yeah.
Or why I think that?
Uh-huh.
Well, I love people, and I get energy from being with people. So I've read that makes me an extrovert. But I also know within my human design, I have the 2 line. I'm a 6/2, and 2 is the hermit. And during pandemic, I've really learned that I like to be a hermit. So I have both of those.
But how did you find out why? Because you use Myers-Briggs and because you use human design, correct?
Yeah,
Otherwise, you wouldn't know why, right?
probably not. No.
And that's the point. Normally, to understand why we are like that, we need to find out tools that will tell us the reason we are the way we are. Because we know we are extroverts because we like people, but that's not the why, really. Why is it more difficult? Sometimes you believe you're talking in another language because people don't get what you're trying to say, or the other way around. And until you start understanding yourself in more depth and why you are the way you are, you start changing the way you relate towards the rest of the world. Wouldn't you agree?
I would.
And that's the magic, because you, for example, if I don't have a good relationship with you because we're completely different, but I start understanding why I am the way I am and why you are the way you are, then the relationship starts shifting because I start not only understanding, but accepting that you it's okay. And that's what happened with this client of mine. I teach my clients Myers-Briggs. So when she got like how her personality was the way she was and why she was getting stressed out about many things her boss did because he was completely different, and what approach could she use with him to get things done the way she preferred, not wanted, because things never happen the way we want exactly, but as close as possible, like this win-win negotiation. When she started working on that with him, she flew. And, that's after these changes happened and that he offered her a promotion.
Amazing. I love that, because so many people leave their circumstance and think it's going to be different.
But you're bringing the same energy, and that's something you teach. Like, I mean, you're in the same, like black and white, but it's the same energy. You have to move to another place in order to change. Yeah. But it's your energy, is the way, and your energy. And I think a lot of education at the same time, like this awareness of yourself in, this specific case that we're talking about. And that's something you need to learn, not something that will, eventually pop up in your soul or something.
Well, so talk a little bit about writing your book. And I know you're such a student of different tools and techniques and kind of making it really tangible.
Yeah.
Tell me, what was it like to write your book? And
well, it was an adventure.
Writing. Yes.
I actually started writing a book in 2020 in the pandemic about stress management. That was my first, and I was writing it, but then I came to a point when it didn't quite make sense. I did it for like some months, and then 2021, I never kind of like got back to it, and I was, this is weird. But I knew it was something was happening there, and then I did to leave it like that. So this year, one of my mentors in Mexico calls me and he's like, I know a person here that is looking for life coaches to write a book. And it's about life coaching, and he's looking for 15 amazing coaches throughout Latin America. And I thought of you. Would you be interested? And I'm like, hell yes. I would love to participate in this project. And it's an amazing project. Pedro Elroy Rodriguez, he's the creator of it. He's in Monterrey in the north of Mexico. And he created this, I would call project, because his idea is that he's launching different books and their topics on wellness, on leadership, on organizations, on, like he's combining professional things or work things with personal things. So he's gathering the best people in their area. So I collaborated with 14 amazing coaches in writing this book. We are all life coaches from different countries: Mexico, Peru, Argentina, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Colombia. So we're from different, and the idea is that each of us wrote a chapter on our best tools in coaching. So my best tool was about self-awareness, and mainly telling people more about what we're just talking about, like how important it is in order to move forward and to live a more peaceful life. It's so important to get to know you in a deeper way, to understand your why are you the way you are.
I love it. I love to, I know we've talked about this before, bringing this work to Latin America and in Spanish. It's different, right? You come to the US a lot and take training, or in Germany. And so you've done trainings globally, and yet your commitment is to bring this work locally. Can you speak about how it was to collaborate with all of these other Latin American authors and be a part of this movement?
Yeah, well, it's been amazing. Pedro, it's very active. I'm really admire him. In our book, I'm going to show you. Our book is the fourth book in the series. The series is called Lideros Que Inspiran, Leaders That Inspire. And our book is called Life Coaching and Life Coaches and Their Best Techniques. So here are all the 15 authors, and he brought together all of us. I still haven't met them all. We're so many. We're trying to do different things to promote the book and everything. And our book is the fourth. He will still launch this year 5 other books. He's about to launch the 5th book. And book 6, I think, comes at the end of the month. 7, 8, and 9 will come between November and December. So it's crazy. Everything he's doing. And the idea is that there is, the physical book, the Kindle version, and audiobook. And in the future, he's thinking of video book as well, kind of like master classes from each of the chapters. So that's going to be very interesting. So, you have all these formats depending on what people prefer.
And in terms of the energy that's bringing to your mission, what's that been like?
It's been so amazing, because a lot of collaborations are getting started, and a lot of conversations of, bringing the movement to something bigger, to achieve, to bring our knowledge to more people in Latin America, especially that, here, as in comparison to the US, Australia, the UK, or Europe in general, that people invest in their wellness. Here in Latin America, people invest in, going to the gym and eating healthier, but not really in their, mind wellness. And this starts changing right now after pandemic. So it's a really good time we're living, in the sense that people are noticing how important it is. And obviously a lot of people go to therapy, and that's amazing, but there are other paths that people can now explore, and that we're teaching them that there are other ways as well to heal, to move forward, to work on your mind, work on your emotions, work on your self-awareness and everything.
Love it. Let's talk about emotions. So when I think of Stephanie, I think of emotions. And this is an area you've studied a lot, and it goes hand in hand with self-awareness, being aware of how you're feeling. What would you want to say, or why is understanding your emotions so important?
Well, emotions, I believe, is, I like to give an analogy of, imagine, and I will talk about soccer, because soccer is kind of like the main sport in Latin America, So the thing with soccer is, imagine you're the coach of the soccer team. So soccer, a team, a sports team is like emotions. Try to think it of as all your emotions are a team that has to play together. And you as a coach, like their weaknesses, their strengths. You don't buy their drama. You know what to do, when to put them to play, when to take them out. It's supposed to be exactly the same with emotions. You know, that you say, okay, in this moment, I'm going to bring in sadness. In this moment, I'm going to take out sadness. In this moment, happiness. In this moment, I mean, not as a structure as that, you know, but I want you to think it of as a team, and you are the coach that decide who plays when and for how long. Because at the end, all the emotions are amazing and they all have a great message to share with you. But if you do not know what that message is, you think of emotions as good or bad. And emotions are neither. Emotions just are, and it's a feeling in your body that you need to feel it with all your senses and then just let it pass through you. And that's it. That's everything that needs to happen.
Stephanie, I love that analogy of being like the coach and the emotions are players. And I'm curious, how has that changed things for your clients to think of it that way?
Wow, it's been, you know, it changed completely, you know, 180 degrees change. It's like, oh my God, I really can do that. And it's like with the mind as well. Can I really control my mind? I'm like, yeah. Can I really control my emotions? I'm like, yes, of course. I mean, you decide what you're going to feel because you know what it feels like. And it's fair as well. You know, I always say that we are emotionally literate. So it's fair to say, you know, I'm feeling many things, but I cannot name them. It's no problem. Just feel it. Sometimes you don't have a name for it. Feel it. And, you know, and this is, I'm going to tell you a secret, guys. And this is very, very cool. An emotion, you know how long it lasts in your body?
How long?
90 seconds.
Wow.
It's nothing. If your mind starts giving it, you know, like if you're thinking about the situation, if you want to make it bigger, if you want, it can last up to 20 minutes. But still, you know, if you just let it be and you just breathe and feel it, and even if you don't know what it is, just feel, I'm feeling a lot of things all over. Okay, feel a lot of things all over. Don't name it if you don't have a name for it, but just to feel it, and don't try not going to your mind because that's when it lasts longer and you start giving names that probably are not the right ones, but just to feel it and start with, probably it starts with 10, an intent that is very intense. Try to bring it to 0 or to 1. And when you feel it's 0 or 1, it's because it left your body. And that's about it. You don't need too much.
Don't judge it is what I'm hearing in that.
Yeah.
Just allow it. Feel it. And what happens if, I don't know if I should use a positive or a negative, but what happens if anger wants to play the game and won't come off the field?
When it doesn't, but they don't want to come out of the field, it's because you go into your head and you're repeating the experience over and over and over, and you're getting angry and angry and angry. I mean, you get even more anger. But if you just feel it, and there will come a time when it leaves your body. And when you think about the situation again, maybe it won't be as intense as a 10, but maybe we will go down to an 8. Okay, then you feel it until it goes on to 0 or 1 again. And then maybe an hour later, you remember again, okay, get angry, but it will start probably in 6, you know, but each time you just let yourself feel it, it will go a little bit lower. It can get higher again. And you should question yourself, why am I allowing it to go higher? Why? Because sometimes it's not anger what's really the emotion. There's another emotion that's behind it, that's the stronger one. And you use anger as, you know, as a shield, and maybe it's sadness or fear that's actually bothering you. But that's,
so anger is hanging out because that's not really the feeling.
No, that's, you know, that's your shield. That's kind of like the armor you use. For example, I use anger as my armor, not to show fear. And each of us use an emotion as, some people use sadness, some people use anger, some people use fear as the main emotion, but that's not the main one. That's the one you show to the world, but that's not the one that you're really feeling.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like the second level. First, let's feel the emotions. Then we go to the ones that are behind it.
We always like to get advanced over here.
Yeah, I know.
So, share with people, one, how they can get your book, and it's in Spanish, I assume.
Yes, it's in Spanish.
And
but I have a good news.
Oh.
Pedro told us, and this was like a week ago, that they're evaluating translating the books into English. So as soon as they're in English, I will let you know, so we can do, an update on this on this interview, that the book is already available in English.
Amazing. Yeah. So we'll put the link below this video. And then you work with people privately. So talk a little bit about this work, helping them with the tools to really have self-awareness, understand their emotions, that leads to this inner peace and being better at your job. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, what I do is I do coaching one-on-one, and I have a 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year programs. And we work together, using the different tools I've curated throughout the years and that I have become certified. And some tools I just refer to or, recommend depending on the coachee, on the client. And yeah, what we do is my program combines 3 things, or 3 steps, or 3 keys, I say, is self-awareness, is mind, and emotions. We work in the 3 of them at the same time, so your evolution is faster, and in less than 3 months, you start seeing changes like really, really clear and amazing. A little bit like my client that I just told you that wanted to quit her job. And after 3 months, she completely changed their relationship with her boss. And after 4 months, she got a promotion. So yeah, the way I work together, the 3 topics on working on your mind, teaching you how to use your emotions, how to understand yourself better, then with all these tools, you start getting peace, because you start living a life more aligned to who you really are. And that doesn't mean quitting your job or your relationship. It means being true to you and to everyone else.
Thank you. I just want to echo what you said about tools, and, just knowing you over the years. You have a very large toolbox, and you will find the right tool for each individual person. So I know your work is super customized, and I love it.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I know, I know so many tools, and the ones I recommend are the ones that I have tried, or that I know people who are amazing professionals using them. Otherwise, I don't recommend the tools.
What would you like to leave people with?
I want to leave, most of the people that are listening are source leader or are starting to be source leaders. And what I recommend you is, you are a light in the world, and you keep shining, and you keep looking for people that are similar to you, because sometimes we feel lost, like who is like me, or who can understand me. And we are more than you think. And we're out there, and we are shining our light to the world. And don't forget that you are a light, and that we need you. I always use this analogy that we are, the ones that live here right now, are the winners of millions of sperms that try to reach the egg. So if we are the one that won that race, there's a very important reason why we're here right now and today. So live your magic and be a light in the world. We need you.
Thank you. Couldn't say it better. Love you, Stephanie. Thank you for making time for us today. Congratulations on your book, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Darla. It was amazing. And bye to everyone.
Bye.